So as you've heard in our liturgy, you've heard from my clergy colleagues, we are in Shabbat Shuvah. Shabbat Shuvah is the Sabbath of return, the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. A Shabbat given particular status in our liturgy, in our reflection, in our journey of return, of teshuvah, a word that we translate as repentance, but which is that and so much more, of turning, returning, and reflecting. And as you may recall, over the last, I'm not sure how many years, several years, we have invited members of our congregation to speak with us about their journeys, their reflections, their turning and returning. So it is a particular honor, I will cry now, Laurie, having a moment, to invite Laurie Williams. Zach, I'm also crying because I'm remembering you sitting right about there when you were much shorter with Mom and Dad. You were definitely shorter than that. Many of you know Laurie and Rick as longtime members of North Shore Congregation Israel, and you know Zach. You may have seen Rick and the choir, and Laurie, Rick, and Zach here on Shabbat and so many other occasions. So what you may not know is we often don't know other things that the members of our community do, and Laurie will speak more to this, is Laurie has been inspirationally, I will say, leading a grassroots movement for inclusive living options here in our community with a group of volunteer families and stakeholders throughout the country. She's done incredible research, advocacy, fundraising, and so much more. And I'm going to let Laurie speak to her journey. I just want to say thank you so much, and thanks for importing the family from near and far.
I have a loud voice if it's not working.
You're good.
Okay. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
This Shabbat is called Shabbat Shuvah, as you've heard, the Sabbath of return. It is meant to be a time to reflect, to stumble, to get back up and try again. In fact, that might be the perfect working title for my memoir. And I'm pretty sure the sequel will be called Still Trying. I want to begin by telling you about my son, Zach. He's 31 years old, and he is the inspiration and subject of my life's work. When Zach was 18 months old, he was diagnosed with Fragile X syndrome, a disability he will carry for life. That diagnosis changed everything. There is no question that a child changes a parent's life forever. Suddenly, we make space for another person, and our priorities shift away from our own agenda to caring for someone else. Like every parent, I spent years wondering, what kind of future will Zach have? Who will he become? Am I doing enough to give him the life he deserves? But raising a child with disabilities is different because the world is not built to understand, accommodate, or accept them. From the beginning, we had to fight alongside Zach, helping him discover his voice, which he did, understand what he wants, which he did, and learn how to advocate for himself, which he does. That's right. We work to ensure he is not just seen, but heard, that his opinions, his choices, and his wishes are recognized and respected. Many times we found ourselves battling the same systems, the same assumptions, the same dismissals we thought we had already overcome. The programs, opportunities being offered to Zach, not based on who he was, but what people assumed someone with a disability might want or need, without even taking the time to truly get to know him. Other days brought other challenges, new barriers, new fears, new lessons we never expected to have to learn, like realizing that even when Zach had the skills, he was still being left out, not because he couldn't participate, but because others didn't know how to include him. There were so many times we had to go with him, not because he needed us there, but because they did. We were there to make others comfortable, to translate for them, to smooth over awkward silences, or help people see the person behind the diagnosis. And most times, we didn't even realize how isolating that dynamic was. It's been a constant cycle. We reflect, we try, we stumble, we get back up, and we try again. In 2018, when Zach was 24, we had a stunning realization. Zach was living our life, not his own. He was doing what we did. He was going where we went, not because he wanted to, certainly not because he loved our company, but because it was his only option. The peers he grew up with had graduated college, moved around the country, some even got married. Zach clearly wanted and deserved more. And once again, we were faced with the same question. What does his future look like? How can we help him build a meaningful life and fulfill his dreams? At the same time, we had to confront a heartbreaking truth that he can't have everything his friends have. He may never have everything he desires. And some things can be difficult for Zach. He doesn't have a playbook. He doesn't experience the world the same way we do. Everyday tasks often require a lot of patience and a lesson plan. Things need to be broken into steps and processes. Sometimes after trying something 20 times, maybe the 21st time it'll click, and maybe it won't. We believe everything is worth trying and know that everything will not come out the way we plan. How does he know when to keep trying or when to let go? How do we know when to push and when to step back? Judaism teaches us that teshuvah is about action, about the choices we make, the people we lift, and the community we build. It's about returning to the work of repair, even when the path isn't clear, even when the work feels endless, even when it changes, and even when it doesn't. This was another moment in our lives that called for both reflection and action. We could have continued living our comfortable little group life, kicking the can down the road, or we could do what we knew we had to do. The answer was obvious. It was not simple. We had to make it happen. No one was doing it for us. What saved us ultimately was community. As we had many times before, we realized we could not do this alone. We needed help, inspiration, answers. So we put out a call to action. We reached out to our networks, friends, community leaders, professionals, and asked, who else is going through this? Who else is struggling? What are we supposed to do? Dozens of parents came forward with the same desperate need to find a path forward. Because of Zach, a community came together, and together we created something far bigger than we could have imagined. That call to action paid off. That effort grew into a nonprofit, not just for Zach, but for dozens of families like ours. And though the path hasn't always been clear, and even when the work hasn't seemed to change, we are once again reflecting, trying, stumbling, getting back up and trying again. This time as a community, not as isolated parents and families. It's been almost 8 years since that moment. And in that time, we've met hundreds of families. We now have nearly 1,000 supporters and the wider community involved in our nonprofit, which is called the Collaborative Community Housing Initiative, or CCHI. We are a grassroots organization that creates housing and community engagement opportunities to include people with disabilities. We don't just amplify voices, we ensure they lead the conversation. We stand as advocates, partners, and champions of big dreams. As a community, we are problem solvers, inclusion specialists, and trusted guides, working side by side to shape a future where everyone belongs. We are fighters because we have to be. I'm proud to say we are in the process of transforming a former memory care facility in Highland Park into a home called CCHI Commons, a vibrant apartment building for nearly 50 adults with disabilities to live on their own, a place where hallways are filled with familiar voices, where neighbors know each other by name, where friends gather to watch a movie, share a meal, or celebrate a birthday. A place where adults like Zach can live with freedom, choice, and acceptance. A place where parents can finally exhale, knowing they've helped make the impossible possible. Our corner of the world is now built to understand, accommodate, and accept our children. Our goals are no longer focused on who our children are going to be when they grow up, but on what life they want to live. I invite you to join us. You don't need to have a family member with a disability. You just need to want to help build a community where everyone can live the life they choose and deserve. And know this, you will not always succeed, but you will have the opportunity to reflect, try, stumble, and get back up and try again. At first, I thought persistence was about survival, but now I'm learning it's also about resilience, courage, and even joy. I see teshuvah not as returning to perfection, but as returning to love again and again, no matter how winding the path. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Laurie, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to say that you can follow CCHI on social media and see what's going on, and I've seen numerous calls to action and assistance as recently as the last few weeks. There are also brochures outside of our sanctuary, and whatever we have after Shabbat, or else I'll get more, we'll also have in the synagogue office. So if you're in the building this evening, you can take one, whether it's for you, for someone you know, and if you're online and you want to get one, we can connect you as well. And I'm sure that after Yom Kippur, I can connect anyone to Laurie who wants to talk some more and learn some more. Thank you. Zach, thanks for letting Mom talk this evening. We're really, really grateful.